They look like you should be able to find them in a lot of the bigger, more expensive department stores.
I love this shrug. This shrug is by far my favorite accessory with this clothing line. This shrug allows me to wear it short and sexy or long and a little bit more flirty and flowy. So the transformation just happens just very uniquely by flipping the garment upside down. So if I remove my arms, flip the garment upside down, losing that scarf and collared effect, but again, taking that scarf and transforming it to the lower half, making it long and sleek. Super simple.
The Beanery Depot and Deli. Coffee, made-to-order subs, snacks, and more. Meatball sandwiches, fresh and hot. Pepperoni rolls, fish sandwiches, chicken, milkshakes. The Beanery Deli. When you're hungry for something special, and it won't cost you a lot of beans.
Hi friends, I'm Gary West, and whether you find Augustine's Pizza at your local grocery store or at their restaurant in Newcastle, the folks at Augustine's Pizza hope that their pizza is always your first choice for any and all occasions.
It's the China Banquet, 102 North Jefferson Street in Newcastle, for tempting, mouth-watering dishes that you'll enjoy. They have hours from Thursday 11 to 9:30, Friday and Saturday 11 to 10 p.m. You can call for takeout or eat in. China Banquet, everything you've been hungry for right here in Newcastle.
Bill's Bake Shop will make you happy. Bill Cast is the owner, and he and his staff keep the tradition going with all those bakery items that you remember as a kid. Just to name a few items, Bill makes cream sticks, cinnamon rolls, bear claws, cream horns, cannoli, cakes, pies, cookies, bread, pizza, and so much more. Bill's Bake Shop, located at 228 North Liberty Street in the Mahoningtown section of Newcastle, is open Tuesday through Saturday, 7 to 5, and Sunday, 7 to 2, closed on Monday. Bill's, where smiles are everywhere. Call 724-654-4223.
It's winter, so come on inside, sit down, grab a cup of hot cocoa, and watch NCTV45.
The Crane Room for your lunch and dinner rendezvous. You'll enjoy their pleasant atmosphere. The Crane Room takes pride in their wide variety menu. Appetizers, sandwiches, soups, salads, entrees, pasta, and the best burgers in town. Newcastle's best selection of domestic, import, and craft beers from around the world, and the Crane Room features a 35-tap draft system. Ask about their daily specials that will please you every time. The Crane Room is located at 3009 Wilmington Road in Neshannock Township. Call 724-656-1553.
The Globe Leader, your hometown newspaper since 1880. Go to nwglobe.com to read fascinating articles. If you know someone who would enjoy this amazing publication as much as you do, why not give them a gift subscription? I'm excited about getting this into the homes of as many people as possible. Please send their email address and we'll do the rest. Call 724-946-8098. That's the Globe Leader, your hometown newspaper since 1880.
It could be you, it could be me, it could be everything we see. Given the day, given the time, given the moment. It could be you, it could be me, it could be everything we see. Given the day, given the time, given the moment. Some of it comes.
Joshua Sun Rehabilitation Center. From the moment you arrive, you know that you're in the right place. Dr. John Wrightson listens first. He pays attention to detail and then makes the determination. Joshua Sun Rehabilitation. We make the pain go away. Tuscany Square Restaurant, 3470 Wilmington Road, where old world charm meets the modern conveniences of today. Spacious seating and amenities await. Fresh ingredients that make that just right pizza or entree. It's Tuscany Square for your next event. Stop and see us or give us a call at 724-654-0365. The Land of Oz, located next to Subway on Washington Street, features unique clothing for that special design, one of a kind. Also accessories of every sort. Team logo and school logo. Also jeans, tops. For that special look, it's the Land of Oz, located in downtown Newcastle next to Subway.
Welcome to Focus NC on NCTV45. I'm host Matthew Geiger from the Washington Outsider with Linda Nitch and Johnny DiMuccio, hopefully I pronounced that right, from the Lawrence County Economic Development Corporation.
That's correct.
And we're here to have a little talk about what's been going on in the industrial sector
That's correct.
of town. And we've had some pretty good news over the last few years, haven't we?
Yes, about $110 million of investments going on now in the county.
Okay.
That is a lot to do with the activities at North American Forge Masters here in
Okay.
downtown Newcastle. They're putting in a new press that is valued at about $80 million.
Okay.
That kind of investment is phenomenal for our community, and it just cements in our industrial heritage, which is so strong. The work has been underway now for about 6 months, and it'll be another 6 to 8 months before everything's done.
And then once they have, how many jobs will that be?
Jobs are just being retained, not created.
Oh, okay, on that
So-
one. And you said, how many would you say?
All total, the Elwood Group has about 700 people that are employed in Lawrence
Okay.
County.
And they're pretty good salaries, aren't they?
Yeah, the average salary we just heard last week is $80,000.
Okay, so these are some very important, jobs for families and for the local economy.
Correct.
Yes. So, and so what? This $110 million, and that's been over what, 15 years? Or?
Oh no, about 15 months.
Okay, so 15 months. So
Mhm.
that's 110, and that's about. You look at the demographics of Lawrence County. It's about 110,000 people. So you're looking at
Even less than that.
Yeah, even less than that. So you're looking at a good chunk of money for a smaller county,
Mhm.
and so that's actually very important.
Yes, it is.
And so, so we've talked about that, and you mentioned that they're sustaining jobs, but that I can think that kind of shows that they're willing to really put. That's a lot of money they're putting in. They're going to stay in the community.
That's right.
And so when you stay in the community, we can maybe expect at some point for that number to grow.
Well, I think that with the technology that's here, you're
Yeah.
not going to see as much growth as you are going to be retention.
Okay.
Additionally, Johnny goes out and does the business call program, and he sees
Okay.
the impact of those jobs on other smaller companies, and he
Okay,
could
so-
comment
so,
about
yeah,
that.
one
Well,
of you-
the downstream from the Elwood Group is substantial.
Okay.
A lot of the machine shops that maybe have 15 to 30 employees rely heavily on work from the Elwood Group.
Okay.
So, when that investment happens, it's not just for the Elwood Group,
Yeah.
but there are other companies in Lawrence County and the region
Okay.
that do a lot of work for the Elwood Group, and
Okay.
a substantial amount of jobs. And these are some of the better jobs.
Yeah,
You get some good machinists. They make the dollars that we hope can sustain a family.
Yeah.
And, you know, the benefits.
And
So,
fuel, you know, kind of some of the consumer side of the
yeah,
construction.
manufacturing's picked up, and, you know, in Lawrence County, we still, our economy, I think it's around 23% dependent upon manufacturing. Now,
Yeah.
nationally, that's gone down to significantly.
Yes.
10, 11, 12%, but we're still heavy into making things.
Yeah.
Not like maybe it was 30, 40 years ago, but
Well, you know,
still important.
things are changing, and there's always a constant. Like I said, I'm from, you know, the Meadville, Crawford County area. I mentioned that on the show a couple times, and Meadville was the tool and die capital of the world,
Yeah.
and all those little small shops. They're the kind of the small businesses, and those guys, you know, they work a lot of hours. Sometimes they get laid off, but they do make a lot of money, and they do spend, and they, you know, come down to business. So that's actually, you know, a very key point. I actually had a conversation with a gentleman this weekend down in, I think it was Beaver, and he was like, "Oh, Newcastle doesn't have much going on." I'm like, "Well, I've been hearing, you know, people hear that a lot, but I've been talking to, you know, people who are in the position to know better, and it seems like $110 million in the last 15 months. That's not a little bit.
It is.
That's a lot."
And not only does the Elwood Group have its project through its North American Forge Masters, but also Dairy Farmers of America has a $35 million project. Now, right now, they have done a lot with their building, and
Okay.
they're going to be doing a lot with machinery and equipment. That maintains the 300 and some odd jobs that are both here as well as the ones in Mercer County.
Yeah.
The impact then goes even further because it also impacts all the dairy farmers in the area.
Oh yeah.
So-
and that's a group that's
Mhm.
yeah. I've heard their milk prices are pretty stable, but the costs of going up for being a farmer in general is not so great.
I can believe it's a challenge, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
I have a lot of friends that are actually farmers. So and we're talking about the expansion on 18. There's the cheese factory.
Right, it's called Dairy Farmers of America, and they produce a lot of provolone cheese. Do you know what the other cheese is that they
No,
produce?
no, I don't.
Ricotta.
Oh,
I believe
okay.
It's ricotta. They produce a lot of it.
Mm.
I know. I know this because my brother's in-laws are the Borowitzes, and they own Borland Golf Course out there. So we've been out there early in the morning when it can stink, but that's that's a lot of money. It has a very unique smell. I'll tell you that when they're I think it's when they're cleaning out their machines or something.
Maybe
but,
so.
But yeah, that you can actually see them working on there. There's a little Amish place where you can buy vegetables and stuff there too. It's not most of the time it doesn't smell too bad, but you see the workers coming and going, and
They provide good jobs also.
Yeah.
So whether you're producing the forgings at the
Yeah.
Elwood Forge or you're producing the
Yeah.
cheese at Dairy Farmers, we're manufacturing
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, and cheese, especially higher quality cheese, is becoming a real big thing in Pennsylvania. So, people, it's not just cheese; it's a whole industry. And I know from up in Crawford, a lot of the cheese comes from down here. And when you get like fresh ricotta, the difference is, and I cook too, and obviously Angelo has his cook in the castle, but so I know the quality difference. And there's a lot of people who like to have that. So those are jobs that have been around. They're going to stay around. They might even get more. So so I know what more about what the dairy group does. Can you tell us maybe what the Forge Masters do? Do you know?
Well,
what
North
kind-
American Forge Masters is a partnership between the Elwood Group and a group out of Indiana.
Okay.
And so they're using this big press to produce their products. And I guess, Johnny, if you want to describe a little bit more.
Again, the Elwood Group has multiple companies
Okay.
in its umbrella. The
Okay.
forge, significant forging, obviously, of specialized steel, and if you ever go, you should someday, if you get a chance, take a tour through there.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, it's pretty high. It's high-tech manufacturing.
Okay.
That's the other thing we like to emphasize. I think it's important to emphasize.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to educate young people that manufacturing isn't your grandfather's manufacturing.
No, it's not this dirty.
No, well, some of it can be. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
most of it now is more of the tech. When you go into some of these mills, they run everything with the computers.
Yeah.
Move a lot of the machinery. Machine shops, CNC machining is heavily on it. So it's not, it's a great occupation. It's a great tool. Not every young man or woman's going to go to college. A lot of the effort that the workforce investment people are making right now is re-educating our next generation.
Yeah.
And the manufacturing's okay.
Yeah.
You're allowed to go to work with your hands.
Yeah.
Industry Needs You
That's right.
there is
Industry
a
Needs You.
website that they have that really is
Yeah.
highlighting the fact that industry does need young people to come along. As we boomers are going to be retiring, and the fact that there aren't that many people interested in the manufacturing area, it
Yeah.
really means we have to be stepping out there showing them how great manufacturing jobs can be.
You mentioned about growing jobs.
Yeah.
Part of growing jobs is our employers have to be confident that the workforce is out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for them to make the investment, they need to know there's enough people here and in the region that can sustain their business
Yeah.
if they grow.
And
So-
talking a little to that, even a company like Walmart, they just announced last couple of weeks, Walmart's raising their starting wages to $10 an hour, 10 by next year, just to get the high quality workers, because they had a lot of slacking, but there was a lot of companies, they're having trouble retaining their workers and
Sure they
getting
are.
higher quality ones. Their stores have been suffering from it in terms of just their service. So that and a bunch of companies have actually been following them, TJ Maxx and different companies like that. But
Go back to manufacturing here.
Yeah.
We just attended a meeting on Friday about the fact that the companies need to band together, the manufacturers
Yeah.
do, and they're trying to create a manufacturers coalition. There's actually one over in Mahoning County, and they're hoping to do something similar here in Lawrence County as well as Mercer counties,
Yeah.
saying that you need to recognize that workforce needs to grow and everybody needs to be working together.
And one thing, you talked about not everyone goes to college, but even people who go to college, manufacturing might be a really good opportunity for them.
Absolutely.
They have
Engineers,
yeah.
there's no question.
Science degree. There's
Sure.
manufacturing needs that kind of high tech thinking too, that you're going to get out of that. And so, sometimes I've actually had a few conversations with some manufacturers just about kind of like there's I have a physics degree. And when I was speaking to these manufacturers, they asked me, "What's that? What's that actually entail?" And so sometimes there's a lot of skill sets that I have a broader skill set than most people, but than you would expect than from like someone who goes through a training program. And so sometimes they're missing out on certain skill sets that you might get if you go for the college educated. So. And when they're learning, he's like, "Hey, I could have used that skill for this or this or this." So there's a lot of opportunity out there. And my brother actually, he's a computer scientist as well, and we had a very lengthy conversation with a couple people involved in manufacturing about how his field, and he's been doing computer engineering, but how those connect together in unexpected ways because it's so high tech now, and because it's so diversified.
You think about the 3D printers
Yeah.
and the fact that
Well, physicist it was actually a physicist who invented that.
well, the additive manufacturing is certainly something that is out there for
Yeah.
our manufacturers to take advantage of. You've got a lot of our smaller manufacturers, though, that are just busy making sure that they can do their sales
Yeah.
and keep their workforce going. So it's kind of like various levels on the manufacturing hierarchy, and you have to see who can fit into what.
Yeah.
I guess, Johnny, from
Well,
your side?
and the other thing, just talking about the overall, one of the things that's going on right now is the connection of Western PA and Eastern Ohio.
Yeah.
And in Lawrence County, the ability of our companies and for us to recognize who the suppliers of those companies are.
Yeah.
And hopefully grow the job market a little bit that way. The only problem, the only fear I have, I talk about it all the time with Linda. Technology is great, but for the first time in history, unfortunately, sometimes a lot of people think that the technology is not equaling more jobs.
Yeah.
That the great growth of technology isn't necessarily exploding in the job world.
Yeah.
You know, when Henry Ford started manufacturing those cars, the technology was there, but he also exploded the job market.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is, for us
Yeah.
to compete in Lawrence County,
Yeah.
it's very important that our employees are well trained, because
Yeah.
companies are going to they're going to be able to pick and choose where they want to go.
Yeah.
And it's competitive out there. I don't think people understand how competitive it is. Linda knows better than anybody.
Yeah.
Companies that they look everywhere now.
Well, look,
So,
In fact, you will get some leads in for a project, and instead of asking what's your real estate, they ask you what is your workforce, and they
Yeah.
expect local companies to actually engage with them to explain how they go about their
Yeah.
workforce needs, as well as the temporary services, and they're looking at that entire workforce in the region. So you're going up into Mercer County, over into Butler, down into Beaver, as well as Mahoning, Columbiana, and Trumbull.
I know some guys, some of the companies, they'll bring people out from 60 miles away just to have access to the, right? And the reason I brought up about the educated people is not only to say, hey, maybe be interested in, but also sometimes I think what you're kind of talking about is you have to have access to the skills you need to do the company. And, one of the things is sometimes maybe there's some skill sets that would make companies around here more access if they had greater access to the more educated.
Our agencies responsible for securing dollars to help companies train employees have done a great job.
Okay, yeah.
We have hundreds of thousands of dollars available to companies
Okay.
to train incumbent workers and new
Okay.
workers
Yeah.
in skills that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Some of the frustration is, and Linda touched on it, I go in and meet with an owner of a machine shop that has 20 employees.
Okay.
That owner's in that machine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That
exactly.
owner isn't sitting behind the desk real
No.
nice. He or she's in the machine. Trying to get them to take advantage of the programs, do they have time to do it? They really don't want to go out and hire
Yeah.
an HR person. They're not that big. So that's a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
But the dollars are there right now. And
Okay.
any companies that hear this, most of them we've talked to, but if we have missed any, give us a call, because we can get you
Yeah.
to the right people.
And one thing about the training aspect is that one thing I wonder, one thing I've kind of had a conversation is like, they're looking at it from their perspective. I need a guy to get the work done I'm doing now, but they also understand they got a plan for the future. And so, like you said, in competition, you're focused on certain aspects, but there's certain skills that might be useful for the future, but might not be available now or.
I met with a small fab company the other day. They have 13 employees. 7
Yeah.
of them are in their 60s.
Uh-huh.
So he's genuinely concerned, looking down the road 4, 5, 6 years.
Yeah.
There's half his workforce ready to
Yeah.
retire, and how's he going to replace this?
And-
So,
There's actually some various programs that our Workforce Investment Board and the directors recognize that you need to have skills that build upon various, areas.
credentialing and
There you
areas,
go.
yeah, I think
There you
it's
go.
important. Moving hopefully to the future is having employees have credentials, so that you're
Yeah.
the employer, when you're hiring Joe or
Yeah.
Jane that walks in, they've gone through a system of credentialing
Yeah.
that you then know they have some basic skills.
Okay.
That's important for the employer. Now, that's what Linda was talking about, where we're trying to organize our
Yeah.
manufacturers to go down that road. Mahoning Valley's a
Yeah.
little bit ahead of us, quite frankly, in that area.
Yeah.
So.
Say I'm someone. All right. Say I come out as a physics degree, right? And I want to get into manufacturing. The employer says, I don't know what you know or anything, so I'm going to go with an engineer. And I go to him. I say, well, why don't I go with this trained high school student, right? Someone who's through these. And he's like, well, maybe I need a little training on how to do the specific job. But I say to him, well, if you're going to expand your company into the group, I have the skill set you're going to need to understand the technology that's coming out. and develop it.
So if you've gone through, you've got your degree, and if the employer really expects like to see some certifications, there's
Yeah.
something called work keys that you just, the
Yeah.
testing is, I think, relatively easy to do, and it just builds upon it.
Okay.
And so that works. And then I want to take it to the people who don't have that kind of a college degree,
Okay.
but are working their way up, that they
Yeah.
have gotten their GED, or their high school diploma,
Yeah.
and maybe they've gone to Newcastle School of Trades. Our School
Yeah.
of Trades is highly touted throughout the region as far as its abilities to train on its mechanics, its electrical 2-year programs, as well as its, what's the other one, Johnny?
Yeah, electrical maintenance. is a
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah.
Welding.
Welding.
Yeah.
Very
There's
much
a good
so.
example. Welders need to be certified. And
Oh,
have
yeah.
different certifications based on which weld they're doing.
Yeah, and it's not, and I'll tell you right now that my great grandfather worked for a steel company, Campbell's out in New Wilmington. He had a fun story, and I'll just quickly share it with you. He was working on this project, and they were doing this. They had to hold up, wait for the welder to come in, and he's like, "I know how to weld." So he went out there and welded this. The welder came in, he's like, "Did you do that?" And he yelled at him. He's like, "Well, we get it done. You don't have to worry about it now." And he's like, "Okay." So he took a hammer, just a small hammer, hit it, and it broke. He's like, my grandfather's like, "You would have killed someone if they'd gone out there whenever that happened." He's like, "You need to use this tank and this material." You know, so
Yeah, it's not as easy as people think, that's for sure.
It's not that it's part art, craft. It's a craft, but you got to have knowledge behind it, because you got to know which welds to work and what not. And if you're, I'm someone who can understand it, but I don't have the training. I mean, I can, you have to be able to do it in real time, and not just like, oh well, I could look that up, because I could.
And then, yeah,
But-
but the other part of it is you need to pay the people for their skill sets.
Yeah.
What you're talking about, the welders, they do have that craft and the knowledge, and
Yeah.
so they need to be rewarded by having a living wage, if not more.
Yeah,
That's
oh yeah.
for sure.
I mean, definitely
Yeah.
those skill sets are.
We have companies, quite frankly, that need, I think, to be frank about it, at times they complain about finding certain qualified workers, but they're at the bottom end of the pay scale.
Yeah.
And a natural market makes it difficult
Yeah.
for them. So we kind of encourage them, pay a little bit more, you might get
Yeah.
the better workers, because obviously, if you're a great welder and you know what you're doing and you got all the certifications,
You're gonna
you're
leave
gonna
as-
keep moving on up. So,
And-
but which is good, which is what you want. By the way, can I ask, you said you're from Crawford County?
Yes.
What school did you go to?
I went to Maplewood,
Okay.
so
Okay.
Pencrest School
Okay.
District.
Okay.
So that's
What college?
Allegheny.
Oh, you went to
Grove
Allegheny.
College, so yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
you stayed at home.
Yeah, well, they offered me they paid for over half my education.
Okay.
So,
That's good.
or more, actually, it ended up being, but right off the bat, they gave me.
Well, welcome to Lawrence County.
Okay.
Glad you're here.
I've
Glad
been here
you're
a while,
welcome
but
here. How long have you
thank
been here?
A couple years.
Okay.
So,
So
you're
that's a
still
young
new.
person.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know you have to live in Lawrence County your whole life to be considered.
No, not really. Linda's been
I'm-
here
I'm
20
a-
years. We consider her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's
I'm a
20,
transplant, too.
Well, yeah, but I'm not very far away. Crawford's not too far
No,
away. So
no.
And like you said, this all I
The
don't
region?
think I don't think the region knows political boundaries. So.
No, and I was with the city. I was
Yeah.
there. Linda was there a little bit later than me, but
Yeah.
I was there in the early 80s
Yeah.
when the mills were closing down, when the
Mm-hmm.
rock wells were shutting down in the late 80s. Shenango Pottery. I remember the day that they came into the mayor's office and said they were going to close these facilities.
Oh.
You're talking 700 jobs here, 500 here,
Yeah.
1,000, 2,000 here. It's been a long road back, and it's hard, to how do you
Yeah.
replace some of those jobs?
Yeah.
It's very difficult. And, the other issue that Linda struggles with a lot, and I guess me working for her,
Yeah.
trying to find sites, available sites. And I don't know, we haven't touched on that.
No.
But if you want to grow manufacturing, you have to have places for companies to come and build their facilities.
Yeah.
So Linda can talk a little bit more about that, because that's really
Yeah. Why
important.
don't,
The sites that we have need to be shovel-ready, because businesses anymore are on such tight schedules
Yeah.
that they need to know that they have utilities there, that the sites are level, that permitting has to a great degree been done.
Yeah.
And over the last 10 years, years, we've been trying to get Millennium Park ready. A greenfield site takes a long time.
Yeah.
You've got to do
Greenfield site?
greenfield, meaning that it wasn't formally used as a
Okay.
manufacturing site. And so you've got to see about getting your sanitary sewer lines in,
Okay.
your stormwater management in, how much power do you need? You know,
Yeah.
if you're going to have an industrial space, you need a good bit of
Yeah,
power.
you
and
might need and you know, believe me, I've seen the 600, was it watt? Plus,
Megawatt?
The plugins they use, they're basically copper strips. There's a former forge up in Meadville,
Oh.
and it's been converted to a kind of a logistics company.
Mhm.
So, but they still have the old
Oh,
infrastructure,
okay.
and it's basically,
Okay.
you know how when you plug in your 120 watt,
Mhm.
you know, cord at home. Well, this is like 600 and something, and they're like about the banding of this is it's not a wire, it's a band of copper.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's you know, to a lot of people, you know, they don't think about it, but when you're plugging in a big machine, you got to have
A lot of power.
Yeah.
And natural gas is also very important, and
Yeah,
it's a
which-
struggle for, we're lucky enough that the shale gas is coming along, but that doesn't mean that it is there ready to go for a
Yeah.
heavy industrial site.
because they're
And
going to
so-
use a lot.
Yeah, and so you need to be prepared, and it takes a long time to assemble the lands, do all of your wetland studies, all of your permitting for the DEP. And we have 100 acres that's taken us 10 years to get shovel ready. And the amount of money, Johnny and I have struggled with the fact that it's millions of dollars.
Yeah.
We needed $15 million to do our project in a good fashion, and we ended up getting only $7.5 million in grant and another $3.5 in loan. And it has taken a long time, and it's hard to do. So,
In heavy industrial properties, you have the opposite problem. You have a lot of contamination you got to clean up.
Right.
You have an old site
Oh,
that
okay.
needs remediated.
Yeah.
And in Lawrence County, specifically Newcastle and Elwood City, which is
Yeah.
where your heavy industrial sites are going to be,
Yeah.
for the most part.
yeah.
It's a tough road to try to assemble 10, 15, 20 acres. You know, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
The positive thing we do have here, though, is we have 2 rail lines, great short line railroads. So we do have great transportation access, and we got 376. So there's a lot of positives to build on in the
Oh
future.
yeah, and
It just takes a lot of money.
Takes money.
And it takes political leadership to get all
Yeah.
this done, too.
If that money doesn't just walk in, you've got to go to Harrisburg or
It's-
Washington
yeah.
to find it,
And
which
so-
is not easy today.
It seems in the competitive market, and you know, we talk about, you know, we all know that, you know, free trade was the buzzword of the '90s. That was great for our region, and I mean that sarcastically because I think most people in the region aren't too favorable on that.
NAFTA?
No, I don't think they're too favorable.
I don't know.
But you know, so you kind of really need people in there coordinating from the community to coordinate what's going on in the company, so that they see this as an area where they can afford to set up shop. And you know, one thing and I keep going back to this, but I mentioned talking about access to new technologies. My brother once and he was a computer scientist, made a really good note. He was in a manufacturing area with one of his friends. We just like to learn about this kind of stuff because it's interesting. What goes on in these shops is very interesting to us. And like I said, he was a computer scientist, he's a computer engineer. He was looking around and he's like, you know, you take something simple like an iPad. You know, this was a couple years ago. He's like, you know, and he started talking to the owner, and he's like, you know, if you guys use these iPads, you could actually improve your production, because you could walk instead of tethering yourself to a desk or a piece of machine. And he's like, and then the guy's like, we're not really sure what to do with that. And he's like, and my brother looked into it with him, was talking to him, and he said, part of the problem is that there's a disconnect between the computer science engineer, their programming, and the manufacturer, because there wasn't really too many companies out there, and they've started to spring up now, where they were, because there wasn't a demand, there wasn't a knowledge from the manufacturers to actually write the coding to give them the universal access they would need. You know, like you pick up an iPad, you know, before you had to have specialized software. Now you can pick up an iPad or a tab, like a Galaxy, or just if you have Chrome, if you have a Chrome tablet, you have Microsoft, whatever program you have, and it's pretty universal. In the manufacturing sector, they're still programming unique for these companies. So what his observance was is that if there was a better connection between kind of the
I think that
the IT industry.
There tries to be that connection via some nonprofits. There's industrial resource centers that try to connect. We've got all kinds of different partnerships. Whether it is about that manufacturing technology that's out there. Catalyst Connection comes from the Southwest, from the Pittsburgh area, and will come up and help our companies. I think
what
that
do they do?
They are an industrial resource center that provides training, whether it is something like what you're saying with the iPads, to ISO training, and Johnny sees it all the time.
Yeah, there are agencies that will help with reverse engineering and all that good stuff.
And
they're out there. I mean, those assets for companies, we can find the right help for companies that need it, and quite frankly, a lot of them are taking advantage of that. You don't hear about it. It's between them and the company.
That's
right. It's getting done.
These are business-to-business relationships, the B2B.
But there's the connection occurs because the nonprofit is there to try to proactively go in and say, hey, open your doors to us.
A lot of the nonprofits are funded by the government.
They
get a lot of their funding from the state, and their mission, that's what their mission is to do what you're saying, is to go out and make that connection. I'm not a high-tech person, so I just know that when they have an issue, here's who you need to call. Certainly not me, but...
See, Johnny goes out and visits with about 100 of our companies every year to make sure that they learn about these programs.
Try to find out what are they. Where's your problems? What are you looking for? Is it lean? Engineering? Manufacturing. Here's Catalyst Connections number. Here's who you need to call. I try to follow up, make sure they call. It's happening. It's so much better than it was 10, 15 years ago. It really is. It's just unfortunate that, again, we're trying to replace thousands of jobs.
And we're not.
And it's, and you have, when you said something earlier about people saying nothing going on in Newcastle. That simply isn't true. But I can understand that a lot of the old, what's the right word I'm looking for? I don't know, the old, we used to have department stores in downtown. Straus's, Troutman's. And I still hear from people, boy, can't you bring back a department store? I say, well, they're leaving downtown Pittsburgh. I don't think they're going to come here. It's that mental adjustment.
It's a different economy now.
It is a different economy because you've got the hospitals, it's eds and meds, even in our smaller counties that are the largest employers as well as government. Let's go back to, Johnny commented about the Rockwell and the Shenango, China. You had thousands of people employed in those facilities. Now, our newest facilities are much smaller. There's 200,000 square feet of new space that has gone into Lawrence County within the last 15 months. Portersville Valve has moved in on 422.
What do they do?
Portersville Valve makes valves for all kinds of different size valves. For basically the gas and oil industry. So Todd Pizzuto is one of the principals there, and he's recently relocated the company here. So we've got 50 new jobs that are on 422. You've got Magnetic Lifting Technologies that came over from Struthers, Ohio, another 50,000 square feet of space, and they make the big magnets that are used in the scrap industry, which will lead us into talking about our other projects that might be coming down the road. All right, then you've got Velocity Magnetics, which produces the brakes for the amusement park industry. And you might be surprised, all this different industry that actually is here in Lawrence County. It's, like Johnny said, it's quiet. People don't, you have 15, 20, 30 people working at these places as versus the hundreds and thousands that you had at one time in our larger manufacturing locations. So it makes a difference. And then finally, the LCEDC. We talked about Millennium Park. We have a multi-tenant building there, and 25,000 square feet of space is leased already, and there's another 25,000.
And what is that again?
It is a Millennium Park multi-tenant facility that is there for any kind of light industrial or warehousing distribution use, and it's
Okay.
at Millennium Park in
Okay.
Neshannock Township.
And
we have half leased, but we're looking for a tenant for the other half.
Right.
Okay.
25,000 square feet.
Right.
And so light manufacturing and
This building, yes.
Yeah.
Now,
Okay.
Yeah.
Millennium is zoned for heavy
Heavy.
manufacturing.
Right.
okay, so,
Right.
so
Our
you-
building, this building's not.
Okay,
Yeah, this
so-
building was not made for a heavy manufacturing.
Okay.
Hopefully, there will be other users at the site that can take
Okay.
advantage of the heavy industrial designation.
Yeah, and so that's going on. I actually was kind of interesting what it would take. Say, kind of get one of those incubators. I've heard that buzzword around a couple. I've been told that's the.
For 25 years, I've been hearing
Oh.
that.
I'd love to. See, what would it take to say get one in downtown Newcastle for like some? Because
What type of incubator?
Well,
That's where you start.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've had these discussions since I was at the city.
Yeah.
We've had them for 20, 30 years.
So you need a feasibility
Well, I mean-
study.
Yeah, you need to look at what type of incubator, because I think one of the things, you have to really understand who you are
Yeah.
as a county and as a people.
There you go.
Well, let
Okay? You don't become something you're not. In other words,
Yeah.
if you're gonna have an incubator, make sure you gear it to what the market here says.
Yeah.
We have manufacturing. Is it something that's more in line with the additive manufacturing, the 3D printers?
Yeah.
That might make some sense. But then,
Yeah.
there's a lot that has to go into
Or do you
the,
play off of your major employers like the Elwood Group and
Yeah.
their downstream employers?
Yeah. Well,
So, an incubator, it's just not that simple to start an
yeah.
incubator.
Well, one thing.
Not that it shouldn't be looked at.
No, yeah. The thing that the way I approach it is, like I said, these conversations I have. It's like I had physics professors, right? And I asked them, how often do you guys go out and talk to the local manufacturer? And that's another thing. Probably why you don't know what's going on is because unless you go to an employee of one of these companies or the owners and start talking to them, what do you do all day? What do you do all day? And they'll tell you. And if they like what they're doing, they'll sit there and tell you. And they'll say, kind of get an idea of what's going on. And when I was in college, I'd go to my college professor and I'm like, do you ever just talk to these? Because Meadville, Allegheny College is in Meadville, and Meadville at least was the tool and die capital of the world. And I asked, do you ever go to there? And he's like, no. I'm like, are you guys kidding me? The original, when you talk about these big jobs being created, they were created out of a lot of the physics concepts. If you go into a physics lab or something, you'll see a lot of equipment that's been adapted. It came out of people experimenting. A lot of this, there was kind of the concepts they're working on, the modeling and whatnot, gets translated eventually into technology, and then it becomes manufactured. That's how technology came about. And I go into these professors, and they're telling me stuff. I'm like, this guy's having trouble. He's like, we had a trouble in an experiment once with it, and we did this. The parallels are there, but the communities aren't connecting.
we're siloed.
Yeah.
I don't care what you're siloed in, whether it's
Yeah.
education, it's in government, it's in many different things.
Yeah.
But we try to overcome that,
Yeah.
especially right now. We try to be kind of like a partner with various groups
Yeah.
to help our industries, as well as even providing funding.
Yeah.
The LCEDC has a loan fund. There's microloan funds. There's funds throughout the state of Pennsylvania to try to assist businesses. And then when you take the other partners,
Yeah.
the industrial resource centers, all those things make a
Yeah.
difference.
Well, what frustrates me, Linda, is that, as someone who came from seeing both sides, trying to get communication, and I don't see a lot of my, people, there's not a lot of people who get physics degrees, but there's a lot of valuable knowledge. They may not be engineers, but when they come into a project, they come up with a different angle and build it. And when my brother does the same thing, he came in as a computer scientist. He's classified as a computer engineer now. But when he came in, even the computer engineers, he was bringing in concepts that they were able to develop off of that they would have never had access to if they had just hired a computer engineer. And so what frustrates me with kind of the manufacturing is like when you saw Henry Ford come in, he created a revolution. And that's how the technology translated into jobs. And I feel like we're on the verge, just this verge of this revolution where if all the technologies that are siloed, as you put it, could get together better, we would suddenly have these new technologies. Because like you said, 3D printing's big now, but I remember when they first invented it, because it was invented, I think, under optics field, the field of optics, because that's what, which is a field that I love to study. But what basically you have to look at is for machine vision to work, as they call it, the way a machine interacts with the rest of the world on its own, instead of having you put it in, is 3D printing has to use lasers and optics to basically analyze the structure of things,
Okay.
and then come and build, and then coordinate the building. And that's,
okay.
So
And
that's,
so that's why it layers up like that.
it came from. That's why it came from. It actually came as somewhat of a toy. And if you look at some of these other problems, carbon nanotubes, they're. See, this, in the future, the physicists have been lurking, and the engineers have
Watch The
been.
Big Bang Theory, I bet. That's my favorite show.
Is it? You know, I thought that show would actually get canceled. That's why I never
that's a
showed. I'm
great
like,
show.
no
I watch
one's
all the
gonna.
reruns, too.
I'm like, no one's gonna watch this. They don't understand 90% of the jokes.
I have no clue.
It doesn't matter, though. It's
But you
fun.
know what? It survived. I'm like, because I had a choice of watching The Office or The Big Bang Theory. I'm like, I'm gonna go with The Office because I know The Big Bang Theory. I hate it when my shows get canceled.
Well, but the siloing,
Yeah,
what you're talking about is bridging different things, and I don't
Yeah.
think that we can solve a whole lot of that. We can keep
Yeah.
on working towards it, and
Yeah.
I think that we do a pretty good job
Yeah.
in economic development. Whether we're reaching out to our partners, if a business
Yeah.
runs into a problem here
Yeah.
in the community, we have something called the Steel Valley Authority that comes and
Okay.
helps. So there's a lot of different ways that businesses are assisted. And that, hopefully we keep on growing the jobs that are here
Yeah.
and retaining them. 98% of all growth is going to come internally. People talk about attraction and the fact that, we need to attract new jobs. It's much
Yeah.
more about retaining the businesses, and that's exactly what.
The
Yeah.
most new jobs will come from the businesses.
That's
here.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Kodak
Yeah.
lived in Rochester. He started in
Yeah,
Rochester.
I think they had like.
There's a reason Nike's where it is. There's a
Yeah.
reason. I mean, you don't get too many companies dropping from Mars into your
Yeah.
area. Contrary to, you hear politicians keep saying, you gotta get out there and.
They like to
Why
take
can't
credit.
you find that well, they think you can just go out and pull these companies in from California and say, come on here.
Yeah.
We'd
Or
love
China.
to, and we try, and we
Yeah.
do that.
Hey, yes, we do.
But
You know-
here's the reality, 95% of the job growth
Yeah.
is going to come from companies and people
Yeah.
that are here in Lawrence County.
And-
They're
So
proud of
that's
their
just-
community. They're
that's right.
growing their
This is
business
home,
here.
They're growing
Yep.
their business. That's the
Yeah.
reality. Now, the racetrack, that would be something, that's a
Oh,
little
there
bit
we go.
different. Those are the unique situations.
Yeah.
By the way, the important thing about that racetrack, from an economic development standpoint,
What's going on with the
well,
racetrack?
I don't know a whole lot different than what you've heard. You probably know
Okay.
as much as we do at this point. But
Well, the viewers might not, so let's.
I guess it's still in the process of being analyzed in Harrisburg. They're looking at
Okay.
the application. They're going
As
through the
politicians
background
like to
checks.
analyze things for.
They're going through the background checks, and I guess the financing packages
Yeah.
are being put together. But the big benefit would be,
Here we go.
in the end, the $5 million that Lawrence County
Yeah.
would have for economic development. That could
Okay.
be used for other projects that
Okay.
create other jobs. There's jobs at the casino, I understand that,
Yeah.
at the racetrack, but to me, the big benefit is that $5 million that the commissioners would have every
Okay.
year from the revenue of the
Yeah.
casino.
Yeah.
And that money that can go
Yeah.
into other community and economic development activities.
And so when I talk about an incubator, and I mentioned nanocarbon tubes, they're customized at the molecule, and how that translates into jobs is really going to depend upon getting the people studying these new things, and they are new. And so when I talk about, but incubators are the kind of group to do these custom. They're going to start off small. They're going to be, and they might only need a small facility, and they could actually be done in some of these big buildings downtown, and they're high tech. But as you scale up, and I'll tell you what a nanocarbon tube is. It's about, I think, 100 times more conductive than a piece of copper. It's stronger. It's like 10 times stronger than steel. It's flexible. It doesn't rust. In terms of battery technology, the conductivity allows you to eventually, someday, batteries won't use lithium. They won't use lead. Your car battery could be shrunk to the size of smaller than a cell phone eventually
neat.
because of these. And there's actually some people doing a battery facility out in Ohio. I'm not sure exactly where it is. I can't remember, but they're
Axion Batteries
Yeah.
actually here.
Yeah, okay.
In Neshannock Township.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, whether or not they've got a different technology. But what I'm hearing you say is that the think tanks. You see a lot of that
Yeah.
occurring with
Well, these are
like
happening in colleges, too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. YSU down at
Carnegie
Pitt.
and all.
Yeah.
And
We've had
Yeah.
the local employers who have been very technology based, and they tend to go and migrate
Yeah.
towards those places. Here, we've got Westminster, we've got BC3, we've got Newcastle School of Trades.
And
Those
Allegheny's
are the
pretty
places.
close too, and I know the physics professors.
There you
And
go.
I want to yell at those physics professors in all these schools. The physics field never really built an economy, and the same is true of all academics. They just kind of government funded them. They did research. They shared their ideas. They had made engineering and everything. They never connected to the community. They never connected to the concept of job creation, industry creation, wasn't very in the forefront of their minds. So I want to yell at them and say, hey guys, we need to start having more communication with these manufacturings to get the high-tech stuff. Because you know what? In China, they're doing that, and their government's very lavish with their spending. So private schools, you're getting grants and stuff. You got to start talking about what technology you can turn into products to make people's lives better.
Well, you need to be out there talking to
Yeah.
government leaders then, because incubators, Johnny, where are you going to get the money for an
That's-
incubator?
Yeah, I mean,
The resources are so limited. But let Johnny talk to you.
well,
in a bit about
yeah,
it.
I mean, it sounds, everything sounds great until
Yeah.
you sit down and you think,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
where are the dollars going to come from?
Yeah.
And with the government right now cutting back in all those areas,
Yeah.
the
And
grants.
that's a huge,
Well, the grants that were out there years ago for cities
Oh,
and
yeah.
counties and the other agencies, they're not there anymore. They're
Yeah.
not there like they used to be. They're limited, so it's very competitive.
yeah,
One of the problems, I mean, you have to be frank,
okay,
and you have to look. This is why I say you got to look at your community honestly.
yeah,
Where we struggle to try to compete in that high tech world, not that we should, it's hard to compete with Carnegie Mellon.
yes,
It sounds like, why don't you have that incubator in
Yeah.
downtown Newcastle? That
Yeah.
carbon thing you talked about?
yeah. Well, it doesn't even have to be that.
Well, but my
3D
point
yeah.
is, that's why I said earlier,
Yeah.
we would love to do an incubator.
Sure.
We'd love to get it funded,
Yeah,
but it's, again, right now in in the environment we're in,
yeah,
with the government cutting
yeah.
back.
Well,
The
it's
political
just
had
hard,
the-
politically, yeah.
people have made the changes to no walking around dollars, things
Yeah.
that were out there
No
to
earmarks,
assist us.
No walking around dollars.
And so our government
That's-
leaders can't help us at all.
That's a
and
whole
so,
different,
yeah.
that's a whole different subject.
let me
Yeah.
let me
Go off from
broaden
there.
this out too, so the burden's not. I'm not going to put the burden on your office.
Well, that doesn't, we don't.
So
that's
we
all
got
right. Go
big
ahead.
shoulders. Go
Okay,
ahead.
well, I want to broaden it out. You talk about Carnegie Mellon. A lot of these technologies are going to be dependent on broader than just one municipality. There's no just one Silicon Valley. This was the original. This whole region was the original Silicon Valley. This is where innovation happened. And so I think we have to look at it as regional. And so, one of the things I do through the Washington Outsider, my site, is try to be a bridge. One of the things I'm doing here is betraying all these different interest groups. So, I kind of want to get a conversation going with, and you guys are kind of the spearhead, but I understand certain things that maybe you guys don't, and that's fine. And that's the thing, is there's different groups out there, the college professors, the engineers. Engineers do not know everything. The physicist came up with an engineering program, but they don't know everything. And when you get those groups together, you get them together, you get the manufacturers, you get some guy who just knows how to weld together with these different parties that they don't run in the same social circles. But you get them together and you get them brainstorming, my God, do you come up with some interesting stuff. So maybe we can get a forum together that doesn't really have a cost if we just get these groups
We'll let you
talking.
do that.
Yes.
Well, I think that's been done, to be quite
Yeah.
frank about it, all due respect, I think that's
Yeah.
been done, and been done many, many times. There's a lot of
Okay.
plans, there's a lot of those things,
Oh.
they're
Yeah.
everywhere. All due respect, they're everywhere. In Lawrence County, we've had numerous planning
Okay.
agencies. Again, it comes down to the simple, basic, where the dollar's gonna come
Yeah.
from. How are we gonna fund it? That's why I come back to the racetrack
Okay.
and how beneficial that would be, because then the county would have dollars
Okay.
to invest in some of the things you're talking
Yeah.
about.
And-
Because you have to have dollars.
Yeah.
We don't have, and again, we're up, it's hard for us to compete
Yeah.
when the dollars aren't there, and we're competing with major foundations, major schools.
Yeah.
Not that we shouldn't try, but,
Yeah.
but again, I'm a realist. Let's talk about what we are good at
Okay.
and grow what we're good at.
Well-
That's just me.
Okay.
Linda's heard it. People have heard me say, do
Well,
what
I'm
you're
very
good
much
at.
a realist
Well,
too,
do what
so-
you're good at.
Yeah.
We're good at making things. We're still
Yeah.
good at heavy metals.
Oh, yeah, we are. We're excellent at those
Let's
things.
grow that, because
And-
there's a way to grow that.
And there's a lot.
Don't try to be good. Don't try to do something you're not good at.
Oh, and there's a lot of like you said, the Master Forge program supports a lot of small. Well, those are kind of derivative industries, and so, I see some stuff coming that they'll come into this and say, hey, there's this support structure here for new industry. So that's actually a valuable asset.
Well, and there's been a long history of support for
Yeah.
small businesses, without
Yeah.
doubt, without
And
doubt.
so, there's a lot going on. Maybe we can figure out let's try, we can get that $5 million and we'll make
that
sure it
racetrack
goes to
here,
the
that's
biggest.
right.
There you go.
$5 million or whatever other projects we have going on. We have a lot of upstate state shreddings coming in with a new scrapyard. I know that'll probably create a good number of jobs. I remember the old one that used to be here for a couple of years at least. I used to come down. I don't remember the name of them.
Oh,
We
But-
still have some companies that
yeah,
do
we
that.
yeah we
but
do.
Not on that scale that he's
No,
proposing.
I've gone to that. I think you have to go out to Sharon now to scrap around it.
Is that
Well, we've cleaned up some stuff in cans and stuff and just taken it
Oh,
down.
we
there.
got them here. We still have
Yeah.
some of
Yeah,
those.
we do. We've
Yeah.
got
Right down on Marie Michelle.
Hobel and who else?
Newcastle Recycling.
There you go.
Okay.
We have Hobel, we have 3 or 4 of them. They do
But
a nice job.
we got a big project coming in, so
Okay.
I think I've been in contact with them, so hopefully we'll be
Let
talking.
me know,
with
we'll
her.
tell you where to go.
Well-
In Lawrence County, not Mercer County. They're nice people in
Yeah.
Mercer County, but we want that.
Yeah, well, we need,
The investment
like I
here.
said,
Wootsies.
we got to have jobs in all these
Wootsies,
counties.
that's
and we can work together, but ultimately, we do need them in this
Okay.
area. We need to rebuild Newcastle.
Right.
So, this has been Focus NC with Linda Nitch and Johnny DiMuccio.
DiMuccio,
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank
this
you.
is
Thank
Matthew.
you.
Let's talk with Norm.
We're with
Norm Lutton.
Norm. You're the owner of Crazy Car Restoration. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it's a new company we're opening up. Originally, we was Lutton Auto Repair, and we're adding on a little bit. And we're trying to bring out some custom cars for people somewhere in between the $5,000 and $20,000 range, what people can actually afford today. Anymore, all these cars are so expensive. We're just trying to make ends meet for other people.
That sounds great now.
But I've been fixing cars for over 35 years.
That's great.
So when you have a repair, big or small, call Norm.
We have a great relationship with Main Street Clothiers and Custom Tailors in downtown Newcastle at 210 East Washington Street. And whenever you watch Focus NC, my wardrobe is furnished by Main Street Clothiers and Custom Tailors.
Whether it's time to fix the furnace, throw the salt, shovel the drive, it's Paul D. Weller Hardware. We have what you need. Whether it's time to get warm, make the macaroni, make the ravioli, make the pizzelles, throw another log on the fire. It's Paul D. Weller Hardware. Hey, let's go sled ride.
It's Butts Flowers when you want a wide variety of flowers for any occasion. They also have a selection of fine gifts and more. Butts Flowers is conveniently located in downtown Newcastle at 120 East Washington Street. Call Butts Flowers at 724-652-7727 or toll free from anywhere, 1-800-443-7726. It's Butts Flowers in downtown Newcastle.
It's 2P's Thrifts and Gifts, 2626 Elwood Road. For the best in giftware and original merchandise. Stop by 2P's Thrifts and Gifts. Check out their many treasures. Gently worn clothing, original items, one of a kind, and also furniture. Something for everyone. Men's clothes, accessories for the house. It's 2P's Thrifts and Gifts, 2626 Elwood Road. Stop by. There's a treasure waiting for you.
Whether it's a scheduled appointment or same-day service, DiCaprio Carpet Cleaning offers 24/7 service for commercial, industrial, and residential, as well as fire and water damage restoration. Using state-of-the-art technology, DiCaprio Carpet Cleaning experts are ready to professionally clean your carpet today. Call DiCaprio Carpet Cleaning for a free in-home estimate. Thank you for making us Lawrence and Mercer County's largest carpet cleaner.
And remember, nobody gets your carpet cleaner.
It's winter, so come on inside, grab a cup of hot cocoa, and sit down and watch NCTV 45.